I would like to start with what is very much the proposition here. Basically, the European Commission's policy-driven proposition on user-driven innovation and transition in as a way to transition and innovate. Now we see that the Green Deal and the rationale behind this, as I see it, is that the European Commission would like to meet its targets with respect to its green targets and its rural development targets in Europe. And they see that this depends on new knowledge, it depends on new technologies and farming systems that are continuously developed, made relevant to, and actually used by farmers. And this should be done at an increasingly swift pace. So there's a sense of urgency to this, to the way to this project, to this proposition. And they see agroecology mainly as a scientific discipline, as a way to make agricultural systems more sustainable, and they see living labs as being a central mechanism that actually would bring users and intermediaries together with agricultural knowledge and innovation systems, the topic of today, basically, the farmers, the science, the advisors, authorities, and civil society, underpinned by policy, bringing all that together in finding solutions. Also with agroecology research infrastructures as means to support agricultural research, and in combination, what we have here is off-station open innovation that's seen as arrangements that foster user-driven experimentation at different scales, and would eventually provide science-based evidence about the effects of measures in agriculture, and thereby accelerate transition. Now, this proposition is very much something that brings agroecology living labs that clearly locates agroecology and living labs transition thinking in current systems-oriented scholarship on sustainability transition. Next one, please. But where did these living labs come from? Did they just fall from the sky, or what? In the short-term perspective, these living labs have actually journeyed from the sort of more campus-based experimentation that we associate with the MIT, for instance, and also then to the rural context, innovation context, and that has actually taken place via Canada and via a group of a G20 meeting in Argentina in 2018. Before it was then adopted in 2019 by the European Commission as agroecology living labs, which eventually then led to the agroecology partnership. Now, originally, or the Canadian version conceives this as agroecosystem living labs, and you can see the definition here, which is both the agroecology living labs and the agroecosystem labs were actually conceived very much as technology experimentation labs, if you like, with on-farm experimentation as a central feature. Next one, please. But if we sort of dig deeper and look sort of in the longer term perspective, not exactly sort of what we would call longue durée, but nevertheless, since the 1950s, it may make sense to consider agroecology living labs and sort of the research trajectories here in relation to it, and perhaps even as something that is related to ideas or dominant ideas in rural development. Now, the point of sort of setting it up like this is that these ideas we arguably would evolve in reaction to or as a consequence of each other. And that doesn't mean that you can neatly categorize them between, in the decades that I've tried to do here with some help from Ellis and Biggs. But nevertheless, we do see that in overall terms, this timeline would suggest that agroecology and participatory thinking about research and about rural development have actually both involved in reaction also, and with AKIS also have actually evolved in reaction to the top-down to top-down, more centralist approaches. Next one, please. And if we actually dig deeper into this, and we separate this research part from the other broad ideas in rural development, it would appear that participatory research has actually emerged in reaction to the inability of top-down linear transfer of technology thinking that you see in the column on the left. Which actually failed in the perceptions of many to deliver social or socially equitable results. So let me also just emphasize that arguably all of these modes, if you like, still exist. It's not that linear transfer of technology has stopped. It's not that we don't have farming systems research. It's not that we don't have farmer first participatory research, and so on. However, the addition or the sort of the latest, the newest kid on the block, if you like, the AKIS ecosystem ecology living labs and all that you see on the slide, sorry, on the column to the right. Is with its emphasis on innovation intermediaries, such as involved with agricultural knowledge and innovation systems, and also with its user-driven approach, where farmers and farmers communities are seen as sources of innovation, and also in context of climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience in particular, and transition, actually do represent sort of very novel re-emphasis, if I should say so, on within a participatory research trajectory. Next slide, please. We may even, at least in a somewhat narrow experimentation perspective, see the current focus on living labs and AKIS and so on as a re-emphasis of attention to farmer-centered reversal of roles that some of you may remember Robert Chambers, farmer first, off-station experimentation that we saw back in the 1980s, and which, as I already have emphasized, gained traction in reaction to top-down ideas that did not actually deliver results, at least not in the social sense of results. There may have been higher yields and so on, but they did not deliver the social results. And a lot of approaches would actually would have also put farmers at the center of things. And some of you may be aware of the farmer field schools, the cluster network, land care groups, stable schools, whatever you have. And I've here put an example also of the mother-baby trial approaches, which I believe were sort of around in the early 2000s, which may not be the best of examples because they may be perceived as more research controlled than what the living lab approach actually calls for. But nevertheless, this is just to illustrate that we are really talking, at least in my interpretation of things, and also in much of the literature, of a re-emphasis of, with new ingredients of something that actually is part of a longer trajectory of participatory research thinking. Next slide, please. And this re-emphasis also provides a very central role to systems thinking on transition and innovation, as I've already alluded to. And this is, as I said before, this is of course a significant novelty to this. And this is where we see that agriculture knowledge and innovation systems are actually seen as a very, very central feature of all this. And this is of course, also in response to this the linear views on innovation. And here, of course, the reaction are the systems approaches, which Clerks and Lewis have so elegantly explained in their contributions. In this context, we see that now a useful definition of the agricultural knowledge and innovation system is that it describes a system of innovation with emphasis on the organizations involved, the links and interactions between them, the institutional infrastructure with its incentives, and the budget mechanisms. And as I said before, the actors here are typically farm advisors, farmers, researchers, organizations, civil society, and so on. Next slide, please. Now, AKIS also becomes very a central policy-driven concept in what we might, from the agroecology living labs innovation nexus perspective, and we see that there's a strong resonance with AKIS seen as being positioned as a central concept for framing innovation support and transition, and we see it as a key policy instrument. And also we see that this resonates very well with seeing farmers and other actors as sort of being central to the whole thing. And this is embodied in Goodsman's version or protocol for living labs, as you see on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. Now, towards the end of this presentation, I would like to draw attention to barriers to transition across the European Union, and perhaps also what might constitute barriers to the what we could then call the AKIS Living Labs transition model. Because the fact is that we see great variation across Europe and great regional diversity when it comes to the nature of agricultural innovation systems. We see that the strengths of, or so-called strengths, depends how you measure the strengths, but the strength of these systems vary enormously. We see that the research paradigms in different countries vary enormously. And this is also something we have actually mapped in one of the in a project where that actually preceded the partner, the current agroecology partnership. We see that we have some issues about transdisciplinarity. We see that the needs of living labs, if they should play roles in transition, differ considerably from region to region. So do perceptions and narratives on transition and the underpinning policies, from the very distributionist narratives to the more Malthusian ones, from increments to redesign and so on. We see also that levels of social capital vary a lot. And what this means to AKIS' ability to foster transition needs, I would suggest, it needs to be much better understood. Next one, please. Next slide, please. So, where may we be headed? I really don't want to sort of even attempt at an answer to this, but I'd nevertheless, because this is what we're really here for, is to sort of find out also the research that we'll be carrying out in this partnership. But I would nevertheless suggest that with respect to the European-wide transition, quite a lot depends on how we manage to address regional diversity, and possibly strengths and weaknesses in place-based context. And we may take our clues there from Ayabano's and Clerk's suggestion that innovation actually requires mobilization of diverse innovation intermediaries, which may also address context specificity. And in the same vein, we may actually take our clues on how we address social capital and collective action as a prerequisite for redesign, as Jules Pretty and his lot has pointed out, is actually a prerequisite. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide. And this may also perhaps, and this again, I'm just suggesting things here, may perhaps entail that we actually go beyond the narrow experimentation that these living labs were conceived to sort of focus on, and actually involve, again, as Ayabano and Clerk suggest, diverse innovation intermediaries that may actually as Wiesel has shows in his figure on the left, may actually bring the scope of experimentation and innovation beyond the plot to what is actually where we probably are in terms of agroecology at the food system level in our understanding of agroecology. And we in this endeavor, perhaps of sort of broadening the model, consider more agroecology's all three pillars, both the science, the movement, and the practice. Because yes, I think this is where I would like to stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Torsten, for this excellent talk. I hope this gave you a lot of ideas and opened up a lot of questions. Please still keep your questions. We will take them after the second talk. And now I would like to move on to our second speaker, Pénélope Lamarque from Belgium. Pénélope, the stage is yours.
Okay. So thank you very much to invite me. I'm really delighted to join you today to share with you our experience here in the Agricultural Research Centre in Agronomy of the Walloon region. And we will share...
Pénélope, please put your slides in presentation mode.
I'm not in presentation mode. Okay.
I will be connected.
Yep, now it's
Excellent.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here in our team, my colleague have started to do participatory science with farmers and actors of the food system since more than 10 years now. And we are doing different projects involving different actors and stakeholders through different levels of participation to work together on the agroecological transition of land areas and food systems, and then explore sustainable alternatives. So this required change from all these actors to do the transition, farmers and other actors, but there is also many changes required on the research side. And it's the goal of this presentation to share with you through different examples of thoughts and questioning about the changes occurring in our work of researcher when doing participatory science. So agroecology induces urgent and profound changes through social innovation involving a diversity of stakeholders who jointly deal with complex problems occurring in the socio-ecological systems. So the food and agricultural organization put at the core of the framework the creation and sharing of knowledge. And this is due to the fact that agroecology is different to the other approach because it's based on a bottom-up and territorial processes to deliver contextualized solutions to local problems. So the central place of co-creation and sharing of knowledge on the framework highlight the fact that the agricultural innovation responds better to local challenges when they are co-created through participatory processes. So it allows to better grasp all the different stakeholders and the perception of change and act differently and blend traditional and practical knowledge to scientific knowledge. So, however, this framework, we could perceive the co-creation and sharing of knowledge as a result, like all the other elements in this framework, but we really think that co-creation should be more seen as a tool, a dynamic, an approach, changing processes. It's not a result in itself. Because participatory science has many advantages, like having more trust between actors, power, inclusivity, openness, relevance for citizens. But this can give an idealized vision of participatory science, but it's not so ideal in reality and not so simple to implement. So it's really important to share and discuss about all the practical difficulties and issues met in order to find solutions and adapt the process. And it's one of the goals of today to share with you all these thoughts. So participatory science is really broad in terms of approach. We have very many different kind of activities and levels for citizens' engagements. On one hand, we have contributory or crowdsourcing citizen science, where citizens contribute to the collection of data or sometimes analysis. And on the second hand, we have participatory science focusing in co-creation of innovation or solution between researchers and actors. And my presentation will focus on the second group of knowledge co-production, where scientists has also a role of co-designer and at the same time a role of facilitator of the groups. So this means that scientists help to create a space where all participants can contribute and learn to the co-creation of solutions, observe the group interaction, listen actively to the discussion and the challenges raised, help to summarize the content of the discussion, manage the different events with the group, and be objective on the group process. So a lot of things to do. Co-creation and participatory approach include a wide gradient of approach, which can be described like here along a gradient of level of participation of stakeholders in the decision process and the level of their consultation. So this starts from informative approach with really passive observation and communication of research results, to consultation with survey and interviews, to focus group and workshop for co-production, to the higher level with co-decision, where stakeholders play also a role in the key decision of the research process and are involved from the beginning to the end of the project. This participatory research draws on the intelligence of many key stakeholders with the idea to collectively design both theoretical and practical change through a knowledge co-production process. But this research posture is not without consequence for the group dynamics and the role and responsibility shared. So this need to be taken into account. So my colleagues and I are conducting different projects with different level of involvement of stakeholders along the gradients I just showed before. We involve different categories of stakeholders and different methodologies at different phases of the project. So the next 4 slides of my presentation will discuss around different examples of participatory projects in which I'm involved and share with you the difficulties met as well as our thoughts. So first of all, the ASOBIO project is a project aiming to understand barriers and incentives for the development of intercropping field, which consists of growing 2 or more crops simultaneously. So here we focus on intercropping with a legume, for example, a pea, and a cereal like a wheat, to increase the crop resilience and decrease farm inputs. So these kind of productions involve many change along the value chain because it's a different manner of producing, but also a different manner of processing. It requires an additional step of sorting the 2 production, and also it requires a new valorization of the legume in our area. So to understand the socioeconomic, environmental, technological, market barriers and incentives at the different steps of the value chain, we involve different actors. So we involve farmers and also actors of the supply chain. In the first step, we conducted individual semi-directed interviews with farmers and actors to identify and understand the agroeconomic, socioeconomic, and logistical difficulties met. And then we identify common issue and questioning, and we discuss all of these questions together in a workshop in a second step. And during this workshop, we try to discuss potential solutions to face this issue. But we met some difficulties to facilitate the discussion among actors because they have different objectives, and also because the actors know each other, but mainly through a business relation. So this induced some handshake during the meeting. And it was also difficult to find a common languages between these different actors. But one of the output of this workshop was a need of more knowledge by each other, and also the fact that they don't know the difficulties met by each other. So we try to organize more field or factory visits to help them to know better how each actors works. Here is another project. It's a long-term project, a 12 years project we have in our experimental farm. And the aim is to define and test a new production system to face food security, food system security, and climate change challenges in line with the European Farm to Fork strategy. And in this project, we are assuming that mixed crop livestock system can be a solution to reach this objective. So it's completely different in terms of production that we currently have in our area. And the governance of the project was developed at a multi-level scale with the involvement of different stakeholders, from scientists of our East research site, but also our technicians and external actors like farmers or actors of the value chain, policy advisor. All these actors are involved at different level of participation and at different state of the project. And we record all the discussion during the meeting, the interviews we did, and we put that on a tool called a chronosystemic timeline, which help us to represent the key decision and action all along the project and understand the relation between them. And it highlights some issue, like the fact that we decided to do a co-construction process for this project, as it was at the core of the agroecological framework, but each actor have some different expectation of the co-construction process, and there is some misunderstanding of the objective, method, and accepted of the outcomes we would like to have. So this lead us to have a wide reflection on the manner to use the co-construction in this process, and also to readapt the process according to this reflection. Here is another project. So we try to develop new projects in terms of an operational group. So it's to discuss and co-create with different actors practical solutions to challenge farmers that to face the challenge that farmers face in their daily work. So we have the opportunity to have funding to do that if we develop a research related to a common issue. So we need to involve farmers from the beginning, and we start from a blank page with only a broad thematic like more sustainable practices or mitigation and adaptation to climate change, creating added value in the supply chains. So we invite a crop livestock farmer to raise this issue, and 6 farmers join us, but they have very different systems, and it was really difficult to find a common issue other than general questions related to broaden agriculture. They was really interested by the process, but they really have difficulties to find time to be involved in different meetings. So we're not able to continue with this group, but we mobilize another group of farmers in another thematic to find different alternatives to milk curves that from dairy production in terms of sustainable goal and animal welfare. And then this group managed to agree around a common question, and this operational group is now working on this subject. So sometimes it's more easier if we have a more precise question at the beginning than a broader question to help farmers to agree on. And finally, we are now developing new perspective with 2 projects with another dimension. So we are creating groups of farmers, so for the living labs. So we will involve farmers and tech stakeholders to reduce the use of plant protection products. And we will conduct with them on-farm experimentation. So it means that we will test the innovation in at least 1 hectare in each farm. But according to the current context with the recent farmer strike and the EU decision to withdraw all on the law of the use of pesticides, the context is not really ideal, but it's even more challenging and interesting to conduct that. So we are now at the step of doing an invitation of farmers to be part of this living lab and to select them. So why using participatory approach for agroecological transition is useful? Because there is many advantages, such like the empowerment of farmers and multiple stakeholders related to agriculture and food, because this transdisciplinary approach really helps to adopt a systemic overview, which is required for agroecological practices. It also helps to deliver contextual solution to local problems by mixing traditional, practical, and local knowledge, and also to involve actors for long-term benefits, as they have the feedback of the research. But to achieve this goal and benefit from this advantage, there is initially a lot of questioning and issue to raise. So, for example, we really have to reflect on how to engage multiple different actors with different issues and objectives, how to involve many farmers, has more and more projects required to involve stakeholders. They are really overloaded by meeting, so we need to mobilize them, but not too much. We also have to ensure that everyone finds their place in heterogeneous groups. So heterogeneity in groups is really powerful because they can share different experience, but it's more difficult to have a common issue and then to find common solutions. The place of the researcher also is challenging, how we can provide expertise, while this subject is also new for us and we have not the same place than in traditional researchers. How actors participate to the project, so which level of participation is useful to respond to the answer, which type of process, methodology, tools to adopt, how to enroll actors on a long-term dynamic, so more than 1 year, sometimes 5 years for the project. So we need to really have a good knowledge of the actors network at the beginning, but also to build a relationship of trust, to really define precisely a common question on which we are working on, and involve as soon as possible from the beginning of the project the actors. And finally, this new position for the researcher to be at the same time researcher, but also facilitator, is a quite complex issue. And it's something that we need to work on, because it's really challenging for researchers to come from traditional research and then connecting participatory research. It's different kind of knowledge, approach, methodologies. For example, sometimes researchers are a little bit confusing with the sample size for statistical analysis. We are not in the same type of approach. Here we are more on a mix of quantitative and qualitative data. We are not external of the project. We are part of the project like the other stakeholders. So doing participatory research cannot be improvised. It requires skills that we do not have in each team, and we cannot have it without field experience and training. It requires, for example, new skills like active listening, observation, ability to summarize, paraphrase what people say, to stimulate the debate, stay neutral, help people to stay on the topic, but stimulate a creativity during the meeting. So there is a lot of new skills to do. And also an acceptation from the research and the actors that there is no ready-to-use process or solution, and we need more adaptive process.
Pénélope, could you please come to the conclusion slide, because then we would need to move to the discussion.
The conclusion. So in our team, we are doing some adaptation. So we hire different people with different backgrounds, and we try to share our way of working together in each discipline. We are following many training courses and on facilitation techniques, for example. We are trying to have more long-term research projects, like the SPOT project, which is a 12 years project. And all the key messages of the presentation is that the actors of the food system need support for the transition in agroecological, need support for agroecological transition, but researchers also need new skill, new technical and soft skill to support them, and for that they need training and experience. So participatory approach is useful, but there is some issue and some difficulties, and I really think that we need to share more between us all the positive but also the negative aspects and the issue met to build on the experience of each other and doing more participatory approach, which have many advantages. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Pénélope. Thank you. Now I hope that you all listeners have a lot of questions in your mind. I would also like to invite Carla Preitz to the discussion. Carla comes from the National Institute for Agrarian and Veterinary Research in Portugal and will be moderating the discussion with me. Please feel free to raise your hand on Zoom and ask for your chance to talk. Alternatively, you can also write your questions in the chat. Carla will be looking through the chat. You're invited to ask a question directly from the speakers or also share your comments. I already see that Marta Rivera has a comment. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the talk. It was very useful and very nice. I just wanted to add one input, at least from my experience, which is when you engage with the stakeholders also in the design of the project, then you are aligning to their own objectives. So this also facilitates participation. And then the other thing I wanted to add is that when you work with collective organizations, like more in social innovation that come from people who are also organized by themselves, and you are supporting these social innovations through research with them, it's also very easy that they want to engage and engage very actively because it's also part of the innovation they have developed. So I think these two things that we also can consider. And then one more thing just to finish is of course, researchers, we need more training, and I think those in the university need to consider to add this also for the students in the future.
Thank you very much, Marta, for those comments.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I don't know if we have some questions. I have one question for Torsten and one question for Pénélope. So if nobody advances, I can put these questions.
Please go ahead, Carla.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Torsten, for this clear overview of where are we coming from and where may we be headed. It was very, very clear overview. And considering the variability in capacities and also characteristics of innovation that you have already mentioned across Europe and across the knowledge and innovation system actors in Europe, what do you think are the implications for the transition, and also how can the agroecology partnership contribute to fostering these differences?
Thank you, Carla. Actually, I I'm not sure, and I think really the one of the challenges here is that we need to better understand these situations, and we really need to understand, and we also have to keep in mind, perhaps that, or not perhaps that when just because we have regional diversity, doesn't necessarily mean that knowledge systems are, well, sometimes it depends on how you measure the strength of AKIS, for instance. But you could also have, in many parts of Europe, there might be more independent knowledge systems. They may not be as integrated as in other parts of Europe. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the innovation is less, if you get my point. It might mean that we have also more easier entrance for alternative ways of thinking about agroecology transition or agriculture transition. So I think there's a lot of things we really need to understand here. But one of the challenges that we do have, I believe, is that on top of a lot of challenges, obviously, but we really do need to actually, given this diversity, I would suggest that we also need to design methods of investigation, research methods, framings that actually take into consideration this kind of how do we get insights into these processes, considering that, or into transition processes, considering that there's no one size fits all also when it comes to understandings of innovation and transition and agroecology. So I think there's a challenge to the research methods that we need to apply in understanding these dynamics and the processes involved.
Okay, thank you. I think we have another question in the chat. That is a pharmaceutical science person that leading a farm for over 10 years. And experience with the social challenges behind in the rainbow family. Can I put my skills best to use? If you want to speak directly, you can. I don't know the name. Andreas. Fine.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much you said everything I wrote. That's kind of my question, because I'm in the middle of everything, like being proper natural scientist, but also grew up as a farmer and continuing with this. So, and I'm just now trying to re-establish my whole life, more or less. So I would be happy just if anybody has an idea how this could work properly together to benefit myself and also, of course, the community.
Does Torsten or Pénélope want to comment? Or Andreas, do I understand it correctly? Are you thinking of like networking possibilities or networking possibilities that you are lacking?
I'm actually rather active networking, like I'm working together with various permaculture people all over Styria and also in the rest of Austria. I've been to chestnut farms in Italy and in Spain, where there's not so much growing, but still something to learn. And I just would like some input if what I could do with this, because now I'm just doing the normal farm work. It's a agricultural farm without livestock. And yeah.
Yes, Torsten, please go ahead.
I don't think, Andreas, we have a sort of any solution to your sort of to your specific issue here. I think it would be more relevant to what we are very relevant if we actually focus on some of the issues that Pénélope raised here, because I think they really, I mean, it's extremely relevant. Even if we do, as Marta pointed out, even if we do have, we have probably, it's even if we do align with the objectives of farmers, and even if we do sort of engage with farmers' problems and let farmers sort of raise it, I agree that from this is also my experience, that it goes quite a long way in a sort of overcoming what can you say, problems, but still, nevertheless, what Pénélope raises is that at the institutional level, how do we actually do this as institutions, and as individual researchers, with respect to being interdisciplinary, with respect to adopting maybe more anthropological skills as natural scientists, and so on. That is an enormous challenge in this still, you know. And I think it would be really interesting to hear some contributions, some suggestions on how do we really overcome this kind of thing. It's a very valid question of you know, it's a very valid sort of barrier here, you know, to transition and to the participatory research.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to bring it up. Thank you very much for the
Yes.
answers.
Thank you very much, Andreas.
Yeah.
I see there's been one hand up before we get to the next comments in the chat. Elena Theodora Miron.
Thank you very much. Maybe I could address Professor Berg. What has not been mentioned as of yet is the role of advisors in this and innovation support services in this co-creation process, and how you see their role as potential facilitators, as they often have a link to both types of actors, which you are discussing now, the researchers and the farmers.
Thank you, Elena. I think, well, obviously the advisory systems are very central to any discussion on AKIS, and the question may be here is the extent to which, again, and this sort of plays into this diversity issue, that also advisory systems vary a lot across Europe, and advisory systems, I would assume, also need to sort of be tuned into issues of transition, redesign, food system thinking, systemic thinking on agroecology transition, and in some. So I think these are really in some places. I just read an article this morning where people said they're on assemblage thinking, where it's been argued that perhaps advisory systems are not always ready to advise on alternative ways in agriculture to the extent that we expect them to be, being aligned with sort of green transition or agroecology goals.
Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say that I agree with Torsten, because at the moment some advisors are not do not have the knowledge required for agroecological transition, because they are working more on culture, on cattle. Everything is separated. They have not a systemic overview of the process, so they also required support and to be included in all this process from the beginning, like the farmers and the other actors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I think, yeah, Carla, will you go through some questions from the chat?
Yes, for Pénélope, I have a question related with the barriers faced by stakeholders in achieving also the agroecological transition, and what strategies and practical recommendations did you have with your experience, and also related with the chat, how to face the fatigue and of the farmers in order to assist to the seminars, workshops, and things like that that consume a lot of time. How to facing these barriers for engage the stakeholders?
Yes, this is challenging. It's all depend of the area and on the farmers on the area, but I think the main things to face these barriers are to involve them around a question that come from them. So it's something from interest to them, and there is something that they want to work on it, and they will be really happy to experiment and have support in the experiment. Every farmer experiment by themselves, but what we propose here is to support them in experiments and to also include more research approach, and then they will be happy to have the results. And if there is a kind of relation of trust and we have a lot of feedback and exchange of knowledge, I think they have so many to learn from them, and they have to learn from us, that it could be something that could lead to have them more involved in the project. But of course, they cannot be involved in many different projects. They do not have more time than us. So
yes,
thank you. Yes, I think there we also have a good point about the time. Then this is also very connected to the stakeholder fatigue that was mentioned in the chat. We have one more question from the audience, and then we will need to start rounding up the discussion. Bernhard Promp, would you like to go ahead with your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Due to our long-term experience in organic farming research, it's very important to have participating farmers, and because they are able to bring down the research results on the ground. And I agree with Heide Spiegel that it's a problem that usually they are not get some money for their contributions, but we try to bring them in with some in the consortiums that they at least get some money. So this is, I think it's a very important point, this participatory research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that comment. And I think this is maybe one big question when moving towards more interdisciplinary, more participatory research teams. We also really need to think, how is everybody's contribution accounted? How are the farmers actually also being complemented for the work they are doing, because they are very, very important part of the research team. We are now very close to 2 o'clock. I would like to thank you very much for your active contribution and participation in this conversation. It's great to hear many points of view on this theme. I see we have one hand up still. Johannes Leitmeyer, I can give you a short comment, but then we need to close for today. Go ahead.
My master thesis innovated exchange for every interview I did with a farmer. I helped them a couple of hours with their farm work. This, of course, depends on what kind of farms you are working with, but in my case, it helped a lot, not only to give them something back in return for their information, but also to give me more information and better understanding of how they are working, because I'm kind of part of the farm work.
Thank you, Johannes. We will have a look at your master thesis, or if you want to send it to us, it would be very valuable. Thank you. And I would, like to give a big thank you to the whole task group from the Agroecology Partnership that has been doing the work to organize this event. Also, especially for the whole AKIS team for making the event possible. For our speakers, Torsten and Pénélope today, for their excellent contributions. Thank you. And I would also like to thank all of you for being here today. And I would already like to invite you for our next conversation that will be organized in June. So thank you very much for today, and we are looking forward to seeing you again in June.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, see you.
Thank you. Bye.